All right, guys, welcome to the call. Thanks for joining us today. So yeah, we're going to talk about working leads and appointments. Very, very important that you guys really need to accept the information that I'm going to share with you today as being fact. This is all based on what we're doing, what we've seen, my experience in the past 15 years, and the law of large numbers. And I'm going to bring up some points that might be kind of offensive to some of us, but I just want you to try to be open-minded as I do this. Triple dial all your leads, start leaving voice messages and follow up with text messages. Keep calling afterwards. So just because you've worked a lead for a day doesn't mean, and you've left the message and you've done the texting, doesn't mean you shouldn't keep dialing. You need to keep working the leads, working leads. You're going to get sales from leads that are days old or even potentially weeks old. And so I'll give you a good example face-to-face. I'll never forget it. It's weird. This woman and her sister, they lived together. They were what we call snowbirds. So they actually traveled. They lived in Florida part-time, and then they lived up north part-time. So this was a lead I had when I first got in the insurance business, and I was calling these people. I was calling this woman for months and months. It was about 6 months, and it was like at that old pile where there was only like a handful of those left. And I never gave up on it. And I'll never forget, she answered the phone. I got the appointment, sold her and her sister two of the largest policies that I've ever sold. Work the lead, guys. Dial the leads and stood up appointments at least 8 times per day for up to 2 weeks. And that's depending on your schedule. I say that because now if you got 4 appointments a day, all right, you're not going to have time to do this. I mean, not 4 appointments a day. If you have 4 appointments per hour, you're not going to have time to do this. If you have 2 appointments per hour, you're going to have plenty of time to do this because you're going to have hours where the appointments stood you up. And now you've got all this time to dial. And this is where, like I said, I don't want to offend you guys, but what happens with some of us is we start doing the activity and then something else is going on. And look, I know, most of us have families. The next thing you know, we're doing something else, and then we're back in the office. And then we're doing something else, and we're back in the office. That is not how you sell insurance over the phone. That doesn't work. If you were in a call center, you wouldn't be doing that.
I got baby with me. What do you want me to do?
There you go. I think I hear Peter. Somebody needs to mute their phone. Good morning, Peter. I think, is that Rudolph? Hey, buddy, good morning. The more you work, the more you sell. Constant activity can save you from failure, especially when you're new. And this is true. So here's the thing I know, and I'll get into this. If you've got the right work ethic, and you do the activity, even if you're not really good, even if you just don't sound right on the phone, even if you're doing a little fumbling and bumbling, if you're constantly working, you're going to make sales that'll make up for that lack of talent. The talent will come with time. So this is where work ethic wins over skill every time, guys, especially when you're new. When I first started, I really wasn't that good. I thought I was good. But when I look back, I really wasn't that good. Like I hadn't plateaued. I hadn't even come next to plateauing. But I was speaking with so many people and working with so many leads and making so many presentations that I did good. That really is the bottom line. You don't have to be a talented producer. You literally only need to spend the time working that it takes to hit your numbers. And that is what it is. It's time on the rail. Again, I mentioned the talent. It's going to come, guys, but you need time on the rail. What's time on the rail? I've shared the fishing story. My old fishing buddy, when I had a commercial fishing boat, time on the rail is you need to be up against the rail with your line, your bait in the water, fishing. You have to be, because the second you put that fishing rod in the gunnel and you turn around to grab a sandwich, that's the sale you just missed, the fish you just missed. You guys get what I'm saying? Time on the rail. The more time that you spend leaning against the rail, the more fish you're going to catch. Increase your leads budget if you have free time during the day, because this is what happens. It's wasted time. What happens if you have too much free time? You're not learning, you're not cutting through the learning curve, or you're not selling. Then
Sorry.
2 weeks later, you're out. All right. Hey, Dylan, please mute yourself. Thank you.
I'm on auto
Set
mute.
goals daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Then increase the budget to match your goals and do the work. Activity equals success. If your goal is to make $100,000 a year and you're only spending, I don't know, $600 or $700 on leads a week, do you really think that's going to be what it takes to make $100,000 profit a year? Probably not. There's a reason that some of the agents on this call are making over $10,000 a month, and there's a reason others aren't. And a big part of it is your budget. Your budget has to match your goals. You can want to make $1 million, but if you don't spend the budget and do the work that it takes to get there, you're never going to do it. It's just not going to happen.
A month or a week? We have some agents making over 10,000 a week.
We do. That's correct. We do. But my point is we have other agents that aren't doing it monthly. To earn six figures, you'll need the lead budget to match it. Guys, spending $1,200 to $1,500 weekly can net you over $150,000. And I think that's where a lot of people think, well, I have this budget in my mind, and this budget is what's going to get me there. Most of the time, that number's pretty wrong, guys. That's my experience. Believe me, I never thought I would spend $70,000 a year on leads when I first got into the insurance business. If you'd have told me that, I would have told you, no way, impossible. At one point, I had a manager that told me when we were doing mortgage protection and we lost the product, they told me, look, Doug, here's what you're going to do. You're going to still do fine. You're going to have to drive I lived in Miami. You're going to have to drive up to Tampa and Orlando because we have the leads there that you can run of existing clients. And you're going to have to stay in the hotel room to do that. I was like, are you crazy? I couldn't believe the guy even brought that up to me. 2 years later, guess what I was doing? And killing it. My point is, again, you have to do what it takes to match your goals. Guys, you don't have to drive to Tampa. It's never going to happen. There's no need on our platform, obviously. Building rapport. I just wanted to touch on this, guys, because it's so important to build enough rapport, and we don't really talk about it enough. So when you guys first get the presentation and you first start doing it, the first thing that happens with all of us, and I went through this too, is you start thinking, wow, this is kind of a long presentation. Look at all these pages it is. Well, first of all, I make the print big. I was speaking with one of the agents this week. I think it was Brandon, about, I keep going back to something that I learned a long time ago. I traveled to basically open my own call center. I went to different companies, and there was this one call center I sat in for 2 days. And I listened to this young lady. She to this day was the best closer I've ever seen in my life. And it's not like she did some magical thing to overcome objections, some magical thing to close the sale. I mean, she basically used the presentation that we're using. It was actually based from her. But what she did that was unique, and I know this sounds crazy, is I would sit with her for 45 minutes while she's just talking to the client. And then 45 minutes into it, she would have the timer and she'd point at it to show me, boom. And then she'd go for the close. Hey, I got great news. It looks like we may have some approvals for you. Grab your pen and paper. I need you to write this down. And then she would go for the close. She would build so much rapport up front. Her closing ratio was ridiculous. So I sat in that office for 2 days. And during that time, she outwrote the other agents 3-1, 4-1, like crazy. In 2 days, I think she had 9 or 10 applications. So guys, building rapport is super, super key. A lot of this, you kind of have to figure out yourself. We all have to figure out our own way. You have to spend time getting chatty with the clients and just talking about anything and everything. The more topics that you've got written down on your notes on your walls, where I like to do stuff. I don't use 2 screens. Some of you guys even use 3 screens. So yeah, you can have your little topics, conversation topics to start on, to nail them with. Some people are just more natural at it. The more time you spend, and this again, it goes to TOR, at building rapport, time on the rail. The more time you spend, the better. And that's the way I see it. Right now, a lot of you guys are giving prices in like 15, 20 minutes. The presentation does allow that. It should be more like 30 minutes, honestly. So I want you to think about that. How many people have you given quotes to within the first 15, 20 minutes that you didn't sell, that seemed like they needed it, that had no reason? They didn't even have insurance. And at the end, they always say the same thing. I got to talk to somebody. I got to think about it. I got to check the budget. I can't afford it. They're giving you objections. Most of the people that are giving you guys objections, believe it or not, if I go back to the young lady that I was referring to in that call center, she would have closed just because she spends so much time doing this. I'm going to give you one more story real quick because this is important. So one of my business partners, he recommended that his sister had never sold anything. She always worked for a company. He said, listen, get your insurance license. I want you to try this. And that's because she was really good. She was like the person at the family, when you go to the family events, she's the one that always had the stories. She's the one that was really good at just being chatty. He got her to do it. And here he was telling me, he's laughing. He's like, I didn't know if she could do it or not. I honestly didn't. I just gave her the motivation and handed her the system. And he said he would listen to her calls. And it's like an hour and a half into the call, and they're just talking about whatever. She's just talking to them. She was closing more than anybody else in his whole insurance agency, just because she took the time to spend with the people building rapport. So you guys get my point. I'm not going to keep going on about this, but the bottom line is you've got to do everything you can to get the prospect to enjoy having a conversation with you. This cannot be just about insurance. If you make it just about selling insurance, you're going to get more people that don't buy from you. But if you make this about building a relationship right from the first conversation, this can change your life. At some point, our system is really designed so you speak with so many people that you have to sell. Like, it's impossible not to sell. You know, if you're spending $1,200, $1,300 a week on leads, you're going to make money, period. But if you do what I'm talking about, you won't need to get the same results. So you got to work your way there. We all have to crawl before we can walk, before we can run. But at this point, I will say the nice thing about our platform is from day one, you can literally run a marathon. You don't have to crawl. If you've got the money to invest in the platform, the money to invest into your business right from day one, you don't have to do all that. Meanwhile, you still need to learn how to build rapport. Very, very, very important.